Welcome to the This Week in Clean Tech podcast. Each week we speak to a leading CEO, executive, thought leader, or insider in the clean tech sector. Each guest shares their thoughts on recent events, their own clean tech journey, and their vision and hopes for the future. This week, our host David Hunt is in Amsterdam with Kristof Vereenooghe, CEO of global EV charging leader EVBox. Hope you enjoy.
So good afternoon, thanks Kristof for joining us on this Week in Clean Tech podcast, live from Amsterdam for your offices. Thanks for hosting.
You're welcome.
You've been a serial entrepreneur and perhaps even a student of entrepreneurship. So I'd like to talk later on about some of the lessons or examples of that more deeply. But firstly, can you tell us a little bit about your background prior to joining EVBox?
Indeed, I have been an entrepreneur my whole life, and the last nearly decade before joining EVBox was mostly in the digital and software cloud, software as a service space, active in marketing automation and brand automation, and purely a SaaS offering in the market for the marketing industry, and that's how I actually, by coincidence, through another software entrepreneur friend, I got in touch with the opportunity of EVBox and the private equity firm, so that the acquisition of the majority happened, of the shares happened end 2014, early 2015,
yeah.
And that's how I started my journey with EVBox.
Okay, I was going to ask about that. So what attracted you to EVBox, having come from, as you say, very much a software company? I guess initially at least EVBox was perhaps more hardware, of course.
Absolutely, EVBox was more hardware, and they had a software component already, but which was due for upgrade or improvement on UI, UX, scalability. But if you look, at that time we already looked at the potential of the industry and the changes, and so we knew that software and even later big data would play a more important role over time, and so that's how we actually stepped into the business.
Okay. So what attracted you to EVBox and a different sector? Was e-mobility a factor or just purely the
Yeah, absolutely. E-mobility was a factor. The future of the change in transport and mobility towards zero emission mobility. But what attracted me is that it was a small company. At that time we were 18 people. It was a purely Dutch player, market leader in the Netherlands, but only in the Netherlands, with a good foundation, and with unique experience. I always say that the company has had the unfair advantage that they started the business here in the Netherlands, which is still a very well, or not to say the most developed country when it comes to EV charging, with the landscape, the open standards that were created here, interoperability and roaming, and smart charging already since the early days before the definitions were actually existing in other places around the world. So that was definitely an opportunity, a good base to further expand and build out a company, and that attracted me to step in.
Okay, so you say there were 18 people when you...
We were 18 end of 2014, yeah.
Okay, so quite some journey. So I guess that leads on to the couple of years, I think, when we first spoke was just after the Engie acquisition. So again, the evolution or change that you've instigated and seen since joining.
So we grew from early 2015, 18 or 20 people towards roughly 55, 60 in March 2017, when that acquisition was announced. And since then we have known an accelerated growth, I would say. In the meantime, we are close to 300 people worldwide. So that was quite a ride from 55, 60 to 300 in less than 2 years' time. Roughly 20 months. Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite phenomenal. I think we'll talk about scale up shortly because I think that's an interesting topic. But again, because you talk then about being very much a Dutch company, but now you're active in how many countries?
Well, we have offices in covering 13 markets directly, Europe and North America, but we're doing business in roughly about 45 countries worldwide. So we truly changed the company from a Dutch-based and focused company to a company on a global level, also doing business in the Netherlands. Right. So the Netherlands is still an important market, but it's a small minority percentage on our total global revenue this year.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, and again, the sector has evolved, I'm sure, over that time. I've only been involved in it for sort of 18 months, 2 years or so, but the sector of e-mobility is, what have been the significant sort of milestones or changes that you've seen in that time?
Well, I mean, if you look to the last 4 or 5 years in this industry, at a certain moment, the evolution in the sector has gone a bit slower than originally anticipated 4 or 5 years ago. But we now see that with a bit of delay, the confirmation of the growth and the potential is even bigger than what we thought before.
Yeah.
And so we are now sure that it's going to become a mass market, and everything is directed into that move. So if you looked at even the big European OEMs are massively investing into e-mobility platforms, that mass market production is coming up, cars with the right battery range at the right price market for all type of models, from small to big, up to SUV, for all type of needs at every price level, and then with the right range. There's no excuse anymore, and we're soon going to see a big shift towards EVs, pure EVs, in many markets. Yeah. So it's totally going to change shortly.
Sure. There's been the talk of this kind of chicken and egg thing. There's not enough EV chargers, so how will people buy cars? So there's not enough cars available, so why would you have an EV charger installed? Well, I think you're right, we're now at that point where the number of models, availability is growing substantially. And because of EVBox and other companies, now the charging infrastructure is more. What about the political landscape? Is that still a challenge?
But I think beside that also is what you see as an evolution in the last quarters and years, is that also with the evolution of the technology, DC and especially HPC, ultra-fast chargers, are now becoming more and more a new standard, where corridor installations of 175, 300 up to 350 kilowatt being installed, and so and creating those corridors from north to south, from east to west, which is, of course, we all know that the majority of charging will happen at home, in residential charging and workplace and commercial, but still, you need those longer traject charging solutions as well. And there, some major players have stepped in, and you see a lot of evolution going on there as well. So it's that together creates that people see more and more charging infrastructure on all levels, in both AC, DC, and HPC are being installed. And so that fear of not being able to charge combined is going away, combined with better battery ranges, and that takes the excuse away of not changing towards electric vehicles.
For not doing it. You see obviously some outliers like Norway, of course everybody knows about, and Netherlands in advance, and actually UK not doing too bad, but certainly some parts of Southern Europe are less behind, less forward than we are.
Well, you would be amazed. We see a rapid change, for example, also in Southern Europe. Spain is really kicking off.
Okay.
Faster than we anticipated. So it's a trend in general. And now that more OEMs are coming with more models and preparing for mass production, dealers are being equipped all over Europe, and so everybody's getting ready for the major shift.
And what challenges does that bring? Because we've seen, or I certainly had some time in the solar industry which went through sort of a big explosion 10, 15 years ago, and you say as much as there's already been fast growth, it looks to accelerate further. What are some of the challenges for companies in the sector and for the sector as a whole in the next couple of years, do you see?
Well, if you compare Europe with the US, it's quite different as a market. In the US, it's one market, one type of product. Where in Europe, you have all the differences of the grid, one phase, three phase, all different type of products. Your product as EV charging in France needs a different type of solution than in other countries, different certifications, norms. So it's quite a complex landscape. Yeah. So before, it has taken us quite some time and effort to get really as active and operational in all those countries with the right product for the right markets. So there's definitely need for more standardization there. on a European level instead of every country having its own normation. In the UK, OLAF, in Germany, Eichrecht, in France, Shutter, etc., etc. So I think step by step that's coming. It's also good for the industry because as we increase scale, it will have an impact on cost, and we need to be able to grow in a scalable way, in a modular way, and so you need more standardization.
Yeah, I can imagine it's quite a big cost and it'd be a challenge if you're having to get 27, 28, standards or certifications across just Europe before you start expand outside of that.
Absolutely, it has. Those are, serious costs that you should not underestimate. It's really, and it takes time as well. It's not only the resource I put in there, but also the time it takes you, and time to market is important. And so there is a certain time pressure with this industry. So that has a big impact. Yeah.
Okay. And the US, you talk about different. Of course, there's 52 states essentially, so there's still some federal elements, but in terms of how the grid functions, I guess that's more standard. But you also have bigger gaps between the conurbations, I guess. What do you see as the challenges there?
The US is, you have of course the coast, east, west coast dominant strong with California, and so you see mainly the adoption going on there. It's a different type of market than Europe. I think, many companies underestimate the complexity and the cost of doing business in the US.
Yeah.
It's a huge country, huge distances, travel costs are high, talent, not only talent acquisition, but also retention is a different thing than in Europe.
Yeah.
It looks like one big market, but it's not that easy to crack, actually.
Yeah. It looks, obviously, I think just here there was a kind of the combination of a number of US companies came to Europe and you and others went the other direction. You've been more collaborating now with ChargePoint, I think.
Well, the thing is that that's purely on interoperability and roaming. So what we have been doing for many years in Europe, and especially it started in the Netherlands. Since the beginning, we created interoperability and roaming between different providers. Players in the market since day one, and we always have been a big fan of this type of creating adoption for the EV market based on open standards.
Yeah.
And that was not the case so far in the US. It was more a close proprietary way of working, which at the end you punish the EV driver. Mm-hmm. And so I think there we shared the same vision, and so we created that interoperability between both networks. And the EV driver is taking the advantage of it. So it's good. I think we have a responsibility as thought leaders in this industry to really create as much as and take the barriers away and help the industry to evolve and grow as fast as possible, and to make it fun. EV driving is fun.
Sure.
But it should also be easy.
Yeah.
And for many people that start to drive an EV, there's always a little bit of adoption going on. So the more easy we make it, and the more fun we make it, the better we're going to improve the adoption of EVs and EV driving in a faster way, and that's the benefit of the whole industry.
Yeah. I think that's one of the challenges being an evangelist for it. Even in the UK, I have 4 or 5 different cards presently for charging, and you try and talk to friends about how easy it is. So kind of it's easy, but
I think there the UK is to be honest behind compared to the rest of Europe. In Europe, interoperability and roaming becomes more and more a standard. There's a couple of players in the UK that still believe in that closed, but at the end it does make sense. Imagine that in the UK you have a bank card of HPC, and you cannot pull ATM money from ING or another bank. It doesn't make sense anymore. We are all global travelers, and we have to be able to. It's just the same as an EV driver. You have to be able to charge everywhere in a very easy way, and you need that convenience. And you shouldn't create those hurdles anymore for EV drivers.
Yeah. Certainly that's something that's changing. Going back to sort of politics a little bit, obviously last year in particular there was a number of cities who declared sort of diesel bans or combustion engine bans in the coming time. Air pollution, of course, is a big issue, which I heard you talk about at Revolution last year. So there are other factors which are driving, but there's also, I guess, some difficulties politically as well to which cities or which nation states. It seems sometimes that the cities are more forward-thinking than the nation states.
Absolutely. If you look in average, most of the announcements by cities, municipalities are earlier than countries. So I mean, and some cities took really a bold statement with like Oslo and Amsterdam, etc. And I think it totally makes sense. If you here in Amsterdam, you arrive at the airport, you see electric taxis, commercial vehicles have to be zero emission, otherwise you cannot enter the city anymore. It totally makes sense. And so air pollution, I mean, it's not only about the environment, but it's also about health.
Sure.
The impact of and the cost of health issues because of air pollution is way bigger than we take into account in our daily life. So that is also very important. The health of children, the health of people that can breathe a healthy way. So I mean, that's an important topic that has to be, and cities and municipalities have a major responsibility there.
Yeah.
So they take a lead, a more progressive approach.
Yeah. I think even London has been leading in that way, but as a parent, you do the school run, and it's quite shocking when you smell, you see the pollution. In terms of, do you see it coming along the line, any particular step changes in the next couple of years, either in technology or in sort of the market, which will aid this acceleration? You talked a little about sort of HPC and other charging, but do you see anything else on the horizon that's going to really make a big difference? Yeah,
there's definitely changes that we're going to see. Tier 1 OEMs, the brands themselves, the manufacturers, they will bring a certain package of solutions. We have seen the announcements of the Volkswagen Group that is already taking the initiative there and announcing those things. So they're really going to play an important role in this industry. That's not only on the hardware side, but also on the services side. Even as MSPs, they will play an important role. So the evolution is going to, and so bigger volumes. Towards mass market. That's a positive thing for the industry. The role of a total solution, not only hardware, software, but the services is changing. More and more also the role of data is going to play a role. But then also if you look to the total ecosystem, it's not only about an EV charger or an EV, but it's also about, we all want to have renewable, sustainable energy to being used to actually charge your cars. So that's playing a role with solar and wind and storage. Storage is becoming more and more affordable and more scalable. So that plays an important role. So that whole ecosystem, as well in the residential with home automation, as in workplace and commercial with energy management, etc. That plays a different role, and then also in beyond that, related to grid and grid management, etc. It's going to change this industry, and so the complexity and the scale that you need to invest in R&D and engineering is becoming different. So. Yeah. That also means that the capital that you need to build out this business on an international, global level, the resources that you have to invest are also different. I remember when 4 or 5 years ago I got in this industry, we were literally one person in R&D. Today we are over 150. So it's a different scale, if you want to play an important role in this industry, you have to invest massively to follow the trends. Sure. And that's one of the changes which, again, you've seen NAD being part of. We've seen the likes of utilities and big oil, and now even Amazon buying into various EV charging or e-mobility solutions and autonomous vehicles. Do you see that as a good thing? Yeah, absolutely. Indeed, if you look to residential market, I truly believe that the OEMs and also certain e-commerce or retail players will play a role, even that oil companies are investing in this industry. It brings, I think it's a positive move. It brings more. More funding towards the industry to invest in R&D and growth. We have to make this a success, and it's a good way. Yeah, I think, as you said, the amount of capital needed now to accelerate is something that's very difficult without deep pockets. It's totally different than 4 or 5 years ago, and absolutely. You need also to be able to work on a long-term strategy, because this business is moving or changing that rapidly, and from origin a clean tech with lots of investment in future revenue and products and solutions. So you have to have a long-term strategy to build out a global strong market situation. And for that, you have to be willing to invest and not truly focus on next quarter already.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that plays into the landscape, not just in terms of e-mobility, but you're touching on your previous sort of startup and entrepreneurial experience of challenges that startups have these days compared to markets where suddenly the big companies are moving in. I mean, are there particular challenges that you see for clean tech startups, not just in e-mobility, but in the sector as a whole now?
Well, I know the e-mobility sector and then EV charging the best, so I'd rather speak for that one. I mean, but indeed, where a couple of years ago you could be acting with a good shareholder or venture capital, whatever. I mean, today I don't think you're going to conquer the world with that. I mean, and you see that there's going to be a number of players left in 3 to 5 years from now, and you need strong shareholders with a long-term vision and strategy behind to be able to be successful, because the landscape is going to change totally. I mean, we're going from a niche early adopter product to a mass market, that certain products and solutions will become more commodity, and if we look to a company like Volkswagen, they're going to bring mass market EVs. EVs to the mass market at very competitive prices. So it's a total different story. I mean, than what it is today, or what it was 2 years ago.
It must be a big challenge. I was at the EVS, I think, with Stuttgart last year, wasn't there? There was an awful lot of Me Too kind of EV charging products and solutions, and consolidation is always a difficult thing. Of course, every market goes through that, and it's ultimately a good thing, but it's difficult if you're on the downside rather than the upside of that. But again, do you see any place for startups, maybe more so pure on the software side? I think,
even there you need scale today. Because you don't. Creating a software solution or a company for a market or a couple of countries, you're not going to win the battle. Even there, you need scale today. You see that even in that space, bigger companies and even our companies are buying in themselves. Shell did an investment in NewMotion, and recently also in Greenhouse, which is purely a software player in the US. Also there, the globe is becoming a village, and you're going to have you're going to need size to become. But I truly believe that there's definitely potential for startups with certain specific new models, new niches, new technologies on the side. There's definitely some interesting opportunities that are popping up. We see some nice startups popping up in this industry, where some of them might have some potential over time.
And do you see, for example, mobility as a service and autonomous vehicles, any significant changes in the next couple of years?
Absolutely. Shared connected cars, autonomous, it all is going to have an impact on the whole ecosystem, the whole industry, and it might come faster than some people think. And this will definitely have a major impact.
Yeah, because I think, again, too often people think of replacing an ICE vehicle with an EV, and that's the marketplace. But I see quite a big reduction in the number of vehicles, but a maximizing of the utilization of vehicles.
Yeah, well, it's a big reduction in number of vehicles is not going to happen overnight. All changes are sometimes take time, but it will definitely have an impact, and so it's going to be smart, connected. It's going to be EV for sure. So that will have definitely an impact on our industry.
And is EVBox sort of active in any forms of moving beyond? I know it's a software sort of solutions company in many ways, but it's also into sort of shared mobility or solutions around managing the data for vehicles.
Well, we have on one hand we have a hardware portfolio from 3 up to 350 kilowatt today, and it's going to go beyond that. And then we have our software platform that we offer as a platform as a service with APIs, so that allows you to connect and use parts or total platform, and then towards data management, etc. But I think as a company you also have to focus. We as a company, we really want to focus on what we're doing and do that well. And you cannot go super broad. So we definitely want to partner with, we believe in the total ecosystem and partner with the right companies. So that you really are part of a total solution. That's also the advantage with our shareholder NG. That is active in the services business in 70 countries. So that's also a huge advantage. And also what they are doing in all kind of investments in battery management and renewable and etc. storage and beyond. So we as a company ourselves, we have to focus very well, focus, and then really be very good at what we're doing there. And that's important.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that actually with startups, because again, sometimes it's tempting when the market is very dynamic to try and be all things to all men. And certainly personally believe that a true focus, kind of a mile deep and inch wide kind of focus is important, which we do with our business also. But in the broader experience of having been through startups in other sectors, which do you find the most challenging and most enjoyable, the startup phase or the scale-up phase, which you're clearly in now?
I've done quite some startups personally at today at my age. Not that I'm old, not at all, but I enjoy today more the scale-up phase than the startup phase.
Okay.
Because I've done quite some startups, and it can be very tough, painful, lonely. You have to do it all, if I see how we are now, in the last couple of years, also with the support of our shareholder, we have been able to grow in a very dynamic way. We call it a hyper growth scale up today, and so it's great that we have the possibility to do that, and I have more fun now than before the acquisition.
Okay.
Yeah.
More fun.
So I really enjoy it. I think we have. We are lucky to have this type of shareholder that support us, that also allows us to focus as a specialist on our business and to keep our culture and dynamics and spirit as a company. The passion that is living here at the company as EVBoxers to really grow this company and to realize our ambitions. That's fantastic. It's unique.
Yeah. I've been through it kind of a couple of times, but the challenges of the cash cost of fast growth is substantial, but also going to the point you talk about the culture, to maintain culture when you're adding a significant percentage of people on a sort of an annual basis. How do you rise to that challenge, or what are some of the sort of the things that are most challenging about that element?
Well, for me, the culture and the people, that's the most important. It's the biggest asset we have, and we have a very strong culture. It's an EVBoxers family with a lot of drive and passion. A lot of people work here because they want to contribute to create a better world and go and create a faster growth towards zero emission mobility. So there's a lot of passion about that, about our mission, and so that's the key of our success. The people that we have, the talent that we are able to attract from all over the world. Every month we move quite a lot of expats over to Amsterdam to really build out our team here. And we invest also in that culture and the team, in getting the right talent with the right attitude and mentality, because that's very important. The toughest, one of the biggest challenges we deal with is as you grow that fast, is knowledge transfer. Training, coaching fast enough. Transfer that knowledge fast enough. That's a difficulty. Because if you hire somebody with 4 or 5 years of experience in e-mobility, it's a veteran. I mean, so you don't find that much talent that already has experience in the e-mobility industry. So you have to train, educate people, and so that knowledge transfer is definitely a very important challenge that we are focusing on hardly on.
Yeah. How do you see, again, it is interesting talking about people in the sector are of a premium and some are well entrenched where they are, but sort of bringing people in from other sectors and bringing them into the sort of e-mobility world. How do you, you've got sort of, I guess going back to your point, knowledge is transferred within, but suddenly the experts are 2 or 3 or 6 months into the business and they're helping to train people who are 2 or 3, 6 weeks into the business. Yeah. It's a big issue.
Yeah, indeed. But at the end, I think it's important who you hire, we always go for the best talent. We are extremely proud to have 38 nationalities today. So we really focus on talent and from all over the world. We have a very strong international focus. But more important is to have people with the right mentality and attitude that really want to. We like to stay agile and entrepreneurial, and that people. Everybody makes mistakes. You should be allowed to make a mistake here, as long as you learn from it. So, we have to dare, and we have to, allow people to learn. But, if you work well as a team, you help each other, and so that way you can scale it up quite fast.
How about going back to sort of mistakes, not necessarily ones just you've made or that you've seen in the startup environments previously? Founders who often want to run too fast or concentrate too much on product and not on people. And what are some of the risks, I guess, or some of the things that you've seen to advise people to be aware of as they start ventures?
Well, I think everybody needs coaching. I also have great mentors and people that I can call every time of the day to discuss something. So everybody needs that. And so that is an important factor. Especially in a startup or a scale-up. That you can grow also as a person.
Yeah.
Make sure the challenge is of course if you grow fast as a company is that certain people can only grow to a certain level. So you have a lot of change going on in your organization. That's not always easy. When I welcome people, I always say, "Yeah, welcome to change. It's going to change all the time, and it's also reality." Sometimes people don't realize it or don't see it why, but afterwards they see it. Once the results are there. So that is definitely a challenge when you grow that fast that you're dealing with change. You get more and more specialized functions instead of general. Yeah. So you have people at the beginning in a startup, you have generalists, and then you go to specialists, and so you have doers, and you need also people that can think and manage. So the DNA of your company and the type of people is becoming a different mix and different. So that's changing as well. So as an organization, you're going through change all the time.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, you're going to have a major problem.
Sure. We have a vested interest in that topic of people first for obvious reasons. But again, you do see startups who concentrate purely on either the fundraising or on the sort of product development and lose sight of the fact that none of that counts much if you don't have the people to execute on your plan.
Yeah. I think that has been, you have to, I think focus is super important. And have the right team, with complementary people and smart people that make you stronger. But also for us as a company, if you see the growth that we have realized in the last 2 years, we didn't have to, by the backing of our shareholder, we could focus on building on the business side and building out the company. And we didn't have to go to 1 or 2 funding rounds in the meantime, which is always distracting management. Yeah. And so in the meantime that our competitors raising money, we are fully focused on building the business and going twice as fast as the others. So it's a tremendous advantage. And that focus is so important.
Yeah, fundraising certainly takes many people's eye off the ball. We talked earlier about collaboration, and I just wanted to touch on the Revolution event, which you're hosting now for the 2nd year, and what
third year. It's the third time.
Third year? Yeah. I only came last year. So what's the sort of the thinking behind that, and the sort of the benefits to EVBox of hosting that conference?
Well, Revolution is taking place March 19th here in Amsterdam. Indeed, it's a third time. It's the annual gathering of the e-mobility industry, where e-mobility experts from all over the world are coming together. There's very interesting speeches, work groups, workshops. I mean, all kind of stuff that whole day, but also some events before and the day before and after. Over 1,000 people from all over the world are coming over to Amsterdam those days, and actually it's built on the concept in every industry in a certain segment. One company can actually build such type of a network, which is the annual gathering of the industry and the conference. And I think by organizing now at third time, I think we have been able to claim that spot. We do it. We invite even colleagues, competitors, everybody of the industry is welcome, because we think, there's a lot of need for education on e-mobility. And as a thought leader, amongst others, together with other companies, we really believe that it's our responsibility to help evolving this market and getting more mature and more professional, and doing, from a thought leadership point of view, bringing the right content to this industry is helpful to bring it to the next level, and that's why we organize it. It's a re-evolution event. It's for the EV charging industry, and it's not purely EVBox. No, we are hosting it and empowering it, but we welcome everybody from the industry because we think it's important that the networking and best practice exchange, etc., is really very important. Very useful for the industry.
Sure. No, I was not surprised, but I enjoyed last year being so collaborative, and there were people from other companies and competitors and other parts of the ecosystem, which was sharing the workshops, which was good. It's interesting you touched before on mentors. I'm always interested in as you said before, again, that it can be lonely as a startup, even in scale up. Sometimes it has its challenges. You talk about mentors. I read a lot. Are there any particular books, podcasts, thought leaders that you've been inspired by or had impact on you in the last couple of years?
Well, I have been lucky that I had one or a couple of great coaches, mentors that were there to help me or advise me and in those moments in the growth also before, but especially also here at EVBox through the whole journey. So I think that's very useful, because you can actually exchange your issues or challenges or opportunities in a confidential way, and somebody that can that is not in a day-to-day business but look at it from a different angle and can give you an advice or a way of thinking. So that's very useful. Before that, I spent many years in the SaaS industry. For me, Mark Bynder was definitely an inspiring leader. If you see what he has done with Dreamforce, it's amazing. Starting in 2000, I went to Dreamforce in 2003 or 2004. There was only a couple of hundred people, and now there's tens of thousands of people going every year to that event. So that's also how I got to the idea of evolution. But people that changed an industry, going from an on-premise license model, where big corporations saying no, it's not the way it's going to be. But at the end, they disrupted the industry, and now software as a service is a standard. It's already going beyond. It's evolving more and more to platform as a service, and etc. So that has been for me. That industry, SaaS-Cloud, also what Salesforce and other companies did. If I look to in marketing automation, what HubSpot in inbound marketing did, how it grew from a smaller company to what it is today, it's very inspiring.
Yeah. It was interesting. I was at the utility conference in Vienna recently, and there were as many software companies, Oracle and Salesforce, as there were traditional technical companies.
Well, in software as a service and cloud, you look at parameters. You look at customer acquisition cost, customer lifetime value, churn, etc. All those parameters. So you work with different metrics, but at the end you can deploy those also in other businesses. So the way you look at business and you manage your business. Also in more traditional, I'm not saying that our business is traditional, but in general, it can be applied in other industries.
Yeah.
And so the way of managing your business with metrics and how you do that is definitely very valuable.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you, Kristof, for your time and insights today. It's been great to have you on the podcast.
You're welcome.
Look forward to seeing you at Revolution and sharing some more stories from there.
Thank you very much, and looking forward to see you at Revolution March 19th.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you for joining us again on the This Week in Clean Tech podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if so, please do share it with friends, colleagues, and across any social media platforms, as it really does help widen our reach. But until the next one, goodbye.